it seems like he's having difficulty navigating the issues, and so it's hard to imagine in 4 weeks how that changes, which could be seems like a big liability.
And it's well after early voting starts, Juan.
I don't think there's any doubt there's going to be a debate. Fetterman's agreed to have a debate in late October.
Okay.
I think that, in a little bit, this is silly season. People have strokes. And guess what? People recover from strokes, and it takes them time to recover from strokes. I think a celebrity doctor should know this, right?
But most of them aren't running for Senate.
No, but you don't. He's not running for president. He's not running for an executive function like a governor. He's running to be part of a legislative body. The GOP problem is that Oz is underperforming, and Fetterman could say, look, even if I have halting speech, I'll do better than a guy who lives in New Jersey. Just go at it.
That seems to be working for him so far.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk more broadly about the midterms, because our new Fox News polling shows a shift in congressional vote preference. Back in July, Republicans held the advantage here, but now, Jillian, it has shifted to the Democrats.
I will say that the president himself is getting a boost this week. It's a surprising boost, first off, given the fact that the fundamental sort of voter building blocks in this election cycle are going to be the economy and then the political reality that most Americans blame the president for not relieving historic inflation. He's getting a boost this week from these, I would describe them as sort of external factors, things that he doesn't really have play a large hand in. The fact that former President Trump's back in the headlines, warring with the DOJ, has a lot of people ginned up. The SCOTUS ruling overturning Roe v. Wade. The president had very little hand, and perhaps none, in either of these issues. He is getting a definite boost from them this week.
Okay, so he's not getting a boost in our polling when we ask about his approve, disapprove, but also this, has the Biden administration been competent and effective in managing government? Now 38% say yes, 52%, Francesca, say no, and that is a flip from a year ago when he was leading on that issue.
Over the past 2 months, he has seen a roughly 5% bounce in the polling, but he still is underwater. That is under 50% in all of the polling. But Democrats are feeling better about the midterm elections at this point, and the White House has been putting President Biden out on at official events to talk about things like infrastructure, and we're going to see a shift though soon. Next week, he'll be going to Florida to talk about the midterm elections. It is supposed to be a speech about Rick Scott's agenda. Of course, Marco Rubio on the ballot in that state also, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. So it's really an opportunity for President Biden to test his messaging for 2024 also in DeSantis and for President Donald Trump's home state.
Yes, it is. Okay, so one of the big issues that we talked about with Senator Graham is this 15-week federal ban he's proposing on abortion. It is an issue that does not hold well for Republicans, and Juan is shaking his head. But this is like a gift to the Democrats. You should be excited about this. Politico magazine, Rich Lowry writes in defense of it. He says if the bill ever gets to a floor vote, it could force Senate Democrats to declare themselves against a late-term abortion ban that will strike much of the public as reasonable. One that you heard the senator say today. And listen, we know that's probably part of the plan. Make them vote on this.
Right, but I think the way that the senator defends it is to say, oh, it's a reasonable amount, it's 15 weeks. I think the idea is that that's the start, a national ban, and clearly people who are opposed to abortion would like it to be a complete ban in this country.
In some states it is.
I'm sorry?
In some states it is.
And right, what we've seen in West Virginia, Indiana, even excluding rape, incest, and the like. So what we've got to see is that the abortion issue has now become a leading issue for American women in this election. We've seen a tremendous surge in registration among women since the Dobbs decision was announced. You've seen the vote in Kansas, a red state, saying, you know what, we don't want abortion just taken off the books. I think that you're seeing people run away from it, scrub their websites, scrub their previous statements in which they were taking on abortion rights.
Others are embracing it, and the New York Times is criticizing those who are now bringing their wives out onto the campaign trail, the Republicans, because of this issue. They say, cue the emergence of gauzy campaign ads starring the wives of Republican Senate hopefuls getting personal about their hubbies. Several recently spotlighted by Politico. Gag. That's the word they use. Josh, quick final word from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that characterization is pretty disgusting. It's sort of relevant whose spouse, man or woman, is on the campaign trail, right? But back to this issue itself. Look, is Senator Graham's position not unreasonable at all, and Democrats' position way out of the mainstream? The problem is it's a little bit like your friend coming over and asking how your grandma is 3 weeks after the funeral. It is not the right time for this, right?
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Pam, thank you very much. We will see you again next Sunday. That is it for today. I'm Shannon Broom. Thank you for joining me. Have a great week. We will see you next Fox News Sunday. no sanctuary after all. Not if it's in their backyard. Mayors and leaders in deep blue cities balk as buses of illegal migrants show up looking for shelter and resources. The leaders of Martha's Vineyard quickly got them out, flying them instead to Cape Cod.
150 people. We're, at this point, we have a health crisis that we're coming out of. We have an employment crisis that we're managing.
Deal with this. Nobody wants open borders who has any idea of how governments and countries work, but nobody wants inhumane, terrible treatment of human beings either.
This is a national problem. It needs a national solution. And we, as cities and states, cannot be left to fend to ourselves.
Coming up, New York gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin closes in on Kathy Hochul with 50 days to the midterm elections with his promise to restore law and order. Then Kamala Harris gets her own surprise as Texas Governor Greg Abbott sends several buses of illegal migrants directly to her doorstep after the border czar misleads the American people again, despite 2 million people already apprehended at the wide-open southern border this year.
The border is secure, but we also have a broken immigration system, in particular over the last 4 years before we came in, and it needs to be fixed.
Then 2 tiers of justice from the Russia collusion lie and Hunter Biden's laptop cover-up to a raid on President Trump's home. Questions swirling around the FBI and its political motivations. Coming up, former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe on the never-ending efforts to stop and silence Donald Trump from the same cabal of players over and over again. Then Joe Biden's bizarre behavior as the commander-in-chief tours the Detroit Auto Show, holding hands with Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Coming up, Texas Congressman Ronnie Jackson on Biden's mental capacity. Will the mainstream media ever call it out? Plus, she helped break open Hunter Biden's influence peddling and Joe Biden's secret flights of illegal migrants in the dead of night. New York Post columnist Miranda Devine on the Washington corruption in plain sight and whether anything changes after the midterm elections. It's all right here, right now.
I didn't bother you when you was eating your food.
And we begin this morning with a closer look at the FBI after its latest attack on former President Donald Trump. On Thursday, longtime federal chief Judge Raymond Dearie was named special master to review the documents seized in the unprecedented raid on Trump's home. Dearie is one of the federal judges who signed off on a FISA warrant against Carter Page during the Crossfire hurricane investigation. Page was under surveillance for 1 year, yet no charges were ever brought against him during the Russia collusion lie. Judge Dearie has ordered lawyers for both President Trump and the DOJ to appear in a New York federal courthouse this Tuesday. Joining us right now is former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe. John, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Maria.
I want to get to a document that you declassified in a moment, but first, give us your sense of Judge Dearie and your assessment of this case so far.
Well, I think he's a good choice to be the special master in this case. As you pointed out, he signed one of the FISA applications that Director Wray of the FBI later had to admit was illegal. The reason he signed it, though, was because the FBI fabricated evidence. FBI lawyer Kevin Kleinsmith submitted false evidence for which he pled guilty to a felony for doing that. It also included false evidence of this Steele dossier, and that the FBI knew was false because the subsource for that, Igor Danchenko, had told them that it was all made up. And so I think Judge Dearie is a good choice because, this was a black eye for the FISA court. He was taken advantage of by the FBI. So in this instance, I think he's not going to take the DOJ and the FBI assertions at face value, and we'll look at these documents. But the other part of it I think that's important for folks to look at, Maria, is part of what he's going to be looking at isn't just the issue of privilege, it's going to be the issue of classification. So the reports are